Winter in Alaska is just around the corner, but there's still just days left of this perfect peak fall. All right, you're free.
That's a really good find. I feel like they haven't come.
Bye-bye, Kippo. All right, so those four have headed off for a quick walk, and so I have my own bear spray, and I'm gonna go try to find a spot on the top of this hill, make a quick sketch. This looks pretty darn scenic. It's just a matter of finding the most scenic spot. Although the beauty of watercolor is if you sit down basically anywhere and you look, even just for a little bit, you'll realize that there's beauty everywhere. So it really doesn't take an amazing location, but if you have one, why not use it? Okay, everything's all set up. Now all I need is like a little bit of water, and I can hear it, so I know there's gotta be some close by. Bingo. All right, it's kind of hidden under here, but a little bit of water. A little more water. All right, we're good to go. Okay, so we got the basics, fresh trail tile, a little bit of some paint, a little bit of a messy palette, but that's okay. And then I'm gonna go sketch an outline right here, but first, I'm gonna try something a little different where I'm actually gonna try to kind of match all of these mountains. Like, I'm just gonna paint with the painting like right in front. So we'll see how this works, but you've got some kind of cool purple mountains going in, and I really wanna try to match them going out there. So, I don't know, trying something new. Let's see how this goes. First off, I'm also gonna use a little bit of pencil just because I kind of like the look of it sometimes, and I'm about to move into the winter season. And in the winter, pens have this nasty habit of freezing or not working or kind of smearing all over the place. So I'm gonna use a pencil just to kind of start getting myself ready for that. Pencils, they were great. They were good in space. They were good in, this case, they're great for everything. Okay, so we got a little bit of this mountain right here, kind of coming down, kind of comes down. There's all these little bit of tree areas. And then this one up here, this also right there, goes down, and they got all these great little spikies. That's flat top, and then peak 1, 2, and 3, and then flake top. And then we've got some good trees over here. Really just trying to kind of just get the general shape of all of this. Not going for anything too fancy. In fact, yeah, most of my sketches really are kind of janky, and then the paint will fancy it up plenty for us later, but you don't need to overthink it. Okay, and then all of these have lots of little, I'm gonna open it on this one. It's kind of like that, sort of what it looks like. That's all right. A couple little lines just to get a general sense. And there we go. That's really all it takes to get sort of a loose idea of what all of that looks like. So, got some of that. Now let's just grab a few brushes and get going. Got my water from earlier, just holding that in one hand. I've got two brushes with me. One is very big, one is very, very small. I'm gonna start the bigger one just so I get a bit of everything there. Just gonna load up on some water. I'm gonna do something to start. It's called activating your paint. It just means you put a drop of it, and just kind of get some of it a little bit less watery, or more watery, in fact. And it'll just make things a little bit so you don't have to like scrub at it. And watercolor is great because when it's dormant, you can leave it as dry as long as you want. It's not going anywhere. They found like paint from the Egyptians in tombs and stuff that would still work fine. But here we go. So we got a little bit of kind of some cloud sky up here. We're gonna start with that, and just a touch of shadow. That's indigo, although I am kind of reusing the stuff from my palette from earlier. But we're just gonna add just a touch of indigo to represent those clouds. And kind of hard to tell what's going on. especially when I'm painting right into the sun. I might have made a mistake on this one. Just adding a little bit of, just a touch of water. Just gonna kind of let that smooth itself over. I like to start with the clouds first because it is so easy to overthink them, but they're just so like, they're just so amorphous. So the smoother and wilder you can get, the better. So I kind of like to just get them right out of the way. I might have done too much water. That's all right, I'll add a bit more of that. There we go. All right, that should be plenty, I think. And now while that's drying, assuming it does dry, because it is like, I don't know if you can tell, it is fall and it is chilly, so that might take a while. I'm gonna jump right back in here and let's get some of this little section right here. Some yellow, I think cadmium yellow, although I'm learning more and more that cadmium has like a bunch of, or just is heavy metal, so part of me hopes maybe this is not cadmium yellow. And it's kind of that fall color though, whatever this color is, it's nailing those kind of almost birch leaf yellow. I feel like that's what we should really name things after, like house paints. It's all named after food, but I feel like all these paint names really could be pulled from nature. A little bit of this kind of brown down in there. Looks like we got a bunch of green as well. So I'm gonna add a bit of green, just a touch. Oh, that's way more than a touch. It's all right though. And just pulling it along the edge, just like that. And that should work just fine. The strange thing with watercolor compared to like, you know, oil or something is I've got all these greens right here, but I can't just like find the exact one and it'll stay there because that is all gonna change constantly. So it's really a matter of just trying to get something that is just right enough. And that's why I think this will be interesting because I do not think it'll line up perfectly, but it'll be fun to see as a challenge, just what I can get. Okay, we've got a little bit more of sort of this green working its way over. I'm just gonna grab some tissue paper just to keep things from sliding all over the place. It's also very useful for the backcountry, you know, if you need to go. Although if you do go, make sure to take it out with you because it's amazing how long tissue paper takes to break down in these areas and it's so gross. So if you don't know already, leave no trace means all of it, including the tissue paper. Okay, got a little bit of that, and then let's make a little bit of orange, maybe a bit of yellow, a bit of red. Just make up a little orange right here. And let's add that kind of right over the top of this. Looks like we had a bit going right here. So windy right now. A little bit right there. Ooh, that is far too bright. When something like that happens, you can always come in with tissue paper, once again. So helpful, so useful. And just dab around, and it'll kind of lift up a lot of that. Some people even do that on purpose too, which looks great when you can pull it off. Now that a lot of that is looking better, I'm just gonna go test right up here. It's still a bit wet, so I'm not gonna put too much down quite yet. But this right here, you can kind of see, we have this nice light kind of hitting the sides of those mountains. So we're gonna be adding those first so that we can come into something much darker right here, which will look really, really good. While a lot of that is kind of working its way, let's add some of this field that I can see right up there. Some yellow in there. Just a hint, just a touch. And you'll see I'm putting the yellow down and then something like orange. And then maybe I'll even carve out this by, adding some green. So something like this. Easy, smooth, and just relaxed enough not to worry about getting anything too right. But you'll see that background kind of brings these lovely little bushes into life. And Alaska's kind of cool. Like, you don't get too much of, you know, the big trees that are all full of color, but the whole ground just comes to life in the fall. Let's give this a shot right now. We've got kind of the same deal going on right back here. So I'm going to start with just a hint of yellow, just a little base layer. But then we're going to add some brown, and it looks like there's some orange and just a little bit of everything. So got a little bit of yellow, a little bit of brown now. This is burnt sienna. Just a little bit of brown. And then we'll add probably just a touch of, maybe a touch more yellow up here. And then we'll be adding some green somewhere in there. But soon, all of these peaks are going to be dusted with snow. It's like somebody came in with a big powdered sugar sieve and just went sprinkle, 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 because the upper limits of these mountains will be hitting that 32-degree mark, and so that's kind of the start of winter. And it's called termination dust, because back in the day, they'd terminate everybody's contract at the mines as soon as that stuff started hitting. So you get like 2 weeks after that came. But we don't quite have it yet. Some of the upper mountains might have it a little bit, but it's got to stick around for a while. And then those places don't get snow-free until spring, or even sometimes like late summer, depending. All right, so we got a little bit right there. I'm loving the look of this, but I'm actually going to hold off just for like seconds here because I want this a tiny bit more dry. I'm going to add some purple on top and let it flow down a little bit, but I don't want it too wet before I do that. So here we go. Maybe like 5 more seconds. I'll just get my purple ready while we're doing that. Maybe a bit of brown to start, a little bit of brown purple, and then we'll go darker and darker. And here's what that's going to look like. Just a little bit right up at the top. And these mountains, because they're so far away, don't need to be the most detailed things on earth. You just got to kind of get the right shape, adding a little bit right to the top, and then you'll see as it touches that sort of wet fall, it's just flowing down. Really easy, really simple. That's looking great. And then it kind of scooches up right there. And I'm starting with brown, but I'm also going to add some purple, which will just follow its way down. It's a little like just teaching somebody how to do one thing and then setting them loose. Same with watercolor. I'm just sort of showing it the right path just to start with, and then I'm going to set it loose. A little bit of purple now. And this same, but here I might just do maybe just the edges or something like that. It's a great way to add some structure and shape to the mountain, is just paint the shadow side a little bit. Every peak has one. Sometimes it's hard to tell it when it's so cloudy like this, but just painting a little bit of that shadow. And then right up here, we've got just a touch, just like that. Ooh, whoops. Adding more peaks than I thought. Quick way to build a mountain range. Just get a little bit overzealous in watercolor. And finally, let's add just a touch of that orange that we made earlier, or make some more. And maybe just add a splotch right here and just let it kind of work its way down. There we go. Some really simple, fast, easy mountains. A little bit more colorful than they are in real life, but kind of painting for feel at this point as opposed to, exactly how it looks. And now we let those to dry a little bit because we're going to come back through with this. I'm going to dive right in here. And this is just a little darker. You can kind of see we got that nice, well, actually probably add a bit more green in here. We got this nice green little patch, just cruising through. Maybe even add a bit of blue. I would love to just get all of those shades of green if you can. There's so many of them. You can make the paint too, but it's also really fun to just kind of let it mix itself on the palette. And then down here is a little lighter, but we'll just add a bit of yellow. Something like that. And then let it all kind of mix maybe, see what happens. Okay, that is looking lovely. Now up here is going to be kind of interesting. We've got a couple little trees, but mostly we have this big, beautiful section of mountain right here. This is, gosh, I should figure it out. I think this is Little O'Malley right here, and then that would make this the ball field. I've climbed up these things enough. I feel like I should know, but it's a little bit different. Actually, let me get this right. Yeah, so this right here, that's Little O'Malley, and then that's the ball field. And so we're going to be painting this peak, and it is got just so many colors on it. It's almost hard to distinguish. So that is going to be, it's got some oranges, it's got some reds, it's got some yellows, but also it does have this kind of lovely shadow on it. So we're going to add some of that. quick look around to see if there's any moose. Nope. Sometimes I get so wrapped up in paintings that I get a little too close to wildlife. And a little bit of yellow up here. Got a little bit of brown on it. And it's a little bit like making a salsa or something. I'm just chopping up the colors and just letting them all mix up in a bowl. All those flavors are so good together. Landscapes know what they're doing when they come into adding some good color. But I think actually a lot of what we're talking about right here is just this green. So this is just our kind of base color. But then when we come up and we add the greens, they'll kind of flow over top of, around, and into this. So here goes a bunch of that green kind of working its way down. Same over here. And just adding it right down here. This might be a little bit wet at this point still, so it might mix into itself, but that's totally fine. Adding just a touch more. And then we are going to come in here with some darker colors in a moment, but we'll kind of just get the Goldilocks style, right? Just the mediums. And then we'll add our tree in a moment as well. Okay, so something like that. Come in here with a little bit of tissue paper, grab the droplets. I can feel my fingers getting cold already. This is the one thing I forgot about winter painting, is it is just a race against time until you freeze. And the fall is just a subtle reminder that that is coming. All right, now let's just add right down here along the base, a little purple, maybe a bit of indigo, or a bit of blue. Just something kind of cool, something a little dark. All right, here we go, right down here. Ooh, that's way too bright. Even add a bit of green to that just to settle it down. Okay, a little bit of this, just sort of anchoring this mountain behind all of these hills. There we go, that's looking great. Right there as well. And then right up at the top, we don't need too much, just maybe a little bit of yellow. Something like that. But all of this, it's so funny. It's like the shadow is really at the top, almost like where it connects to these really bright sections is where it feels the darkest. So we're just gonna add a little bit of purple and indigo and let it kind of flow down. Just checking to see if this is dry. Woo! Here comes the wind. Oh man. Okay, checking to see if that is dry. That should work. Well, at this point, even if it's not, I might have to just go for it just before I get blown away. And here's a little bit of that purple. And you can see it's just kind of flowing down, which is really kind of fun. And then I might even add a little bit of indigo as well. That's kind of that dark blue, almost kind of black, but it's more exciting. And I'm gonna just kind of flick up a little bit because we got these nice little trees. So I'm just gonna try to get some texture in there just to kind of show that we're no longer just mountains, we're kind of in the forest as well. Kind of pulling it down. And those little details go a really long way. Okay, and then we can kind of let it peter out here in the kind of wetter section. And there we go. That is really coming to life. That was really fun. Still got to let it dry because we do have a couple more details, including that tree. So if there's any drops, you can always kind of do a bit of water management. But now we get the fun job of adding these details right up front. And that always feels kind of make or break, but I think it's gonna be really fun. So we've got these right here, these little bushes, I'm not sure, are they alder? Anyway, they got these lovely leaves which have a little bit of everything. You can kind of see they've got a little bit of green, a little bit of brown, a little bit of yellow. And so this has some wonderful texture, but it's hard because you can't paint each of those individually. But I still want to add some of it. So what that's going to look like for me is probably just a little bit of blue, and I'm going to kind of highlight because we already got all those colors in there, so we really just need the shadow. And so how I'll do that is just add a little bit of this blue, mixing it with something dark, maybe a bit of indigo, maybe a bit of purple. There we go. Just getting the right mixture. And then kind of spreading it out because I want it a little bit more dry. And then when it comes to detail and structure, I just gotta put just a little bit like this. Here we go. So I'm just gonna kind of outline a couple of these bushes. Nothing too wild, but something like this. Working our way around just this one bush. And then I'll just move in and just pretend like I'm outlining a couple leaves or something like that. Just a few here, a few there. Letting them kind of work their way in. I'm just looking for that kind of negative space because it's way easier to paint around a couple leaves, or at least just kind of highlight them, than it is to, you know, paint them with gouache or something like that. And frankly, you can't, because watercolor is transparent. So if you have something darker behind it, it's not going to do anything. So there we go, a little couple leaves, a couple little bushes, and then we're going to add some water, and it's just going to come to life, you'll see. Okay, there we go. So that doesn't look like much. Watch this. Just getting some water, kind of just rinsing off my brush really good. And then when I add a little bit of water to this edge, not the bush edge, but the background edge, and I kind of let that all drift around, then this bush will just kind of pop out of the background. And those nice dark lines become just like sort of the cracks in between the leaves. So you got a little bit of this, a little bit of that. Maybe I'll then kind of do the same method to this, like sort of, what would it be, a leaf, or like another little layer of bush right there. And by doing that, that bush kind of comes to life way more within this. So it's really simple, it's really subtle, but it is this great way of kind of adding a little bit of detail. If you want to, you can always add just a touch of brown, make a twig or two. That's a nice way to add some color, add some texture. But you don't need much. It's like a wedding dresser, right? You know, something like that. You just need the dress and then something new, something blue, something, whatever all those things are. You know, you don't need much in watercolor. You just need something dark, something, you know, washy, something detailed, something, well, blue. You gotta have blue in watercolor. Just a little bit more like that. And there we go. Basically, gets it all right there. Now, depending on how dry things are, I could always add one or two little trees. Maybe I'll add one right there just to spice it up. Maybe some indigo to start, maybe a bit of blue. And I'm just gonna add a little tree, something really subtle, just right there. And maybe a little bit more, just to sort of show as things go back. We've got the foreground, the midground, and then there's our background right there. But there we go. Just a really fun little sketch. You can kind of see all this out there. It sort of lines up, but it's way more colorful in the painting, and that's okay, because our eyes, or even this camera, are never going to be able to capture just how colorful this place feels. And that's what's so nice about watercolors. You can actually paint how something feels. And this place just feels like it's this last little hurrah before everything becomes covered in white and it becomes a whole different kind of landscape, which I can't wait for, and my fingers are a little afraid for. But until then, this is so fun to be able to just put just a little bit of this color on a piece of paper. How was it? Good blueberries?